Are hot flashes normal during menopause? It's a very common symptom that I hear about for our 50-year-old weak females. They say, I just have to fan myself. I have to change my clothes all the time. I'm so hot all the time. I'm Dr. Carrie Lam, and this is Dr. Michael Lam, our adrenal fatigue expert. Are hot flashes normal in menopause?
As much as I like to say it is normal, the reality from my years of experience is that it is not a normal process. If you look back through the decades, as recent as 30 or 40 years ago, the previous generation, not many people have hot flashes. Women go through menopause relatively uneventful. And yes, the period does slow down and eventually disappear. But by and large, their life is not affected. They're able to continue their work. It's not like nowadays where it seems to be like almost a universal debilitating event for some people.
Yeah, why do people get hot flashes if it's not a normal thing?
Well, hot flashes actually represent an underlying vasomotor instability. What that means is that your blood vessels are usually maintained at a stable integrity throughout in terms of the size, the blood flow, the pressure. When this vasomotor instability happens, that means the body's self-regulation has lost its balance. So this can be a hormonal-driven issue. But the body usually has a self-balancing proposition. But when this self-balancing mechanism fails, that's when the vasomotor becomes problematic. And as a consequence of that, then hot flashes is just one of the symptoms.
So vasomotor, meaning your blood vessels kind of just get bigger, and more blood goes through?
Yeah, more blood goes through, you're going to have more oxygen,
hot.
which is good, you feel hot. And so that's why women have these symptoms, it seems to. But they are not supposed to happen if you have a normal body that doesn't have excessive amount of hormone or deficiency in certain hormones, because both sides of the coin can trigger such vasomotor instability.
So you're saying actually it's the hormones that cause the vasomotor instability. What hormones are you talking about?
Well, estrogen in particular has been the mainstay of research over the last half a century, and in the past, even in the mid 70s or 60s, it's very popular. In fact, it was a standard of practice is to prescribe estrogen, such as Premarin, which is a E2. Predominantly to women because it is useful. At that time, of course, the demographics of the women are quite different. They are much more skinny and more active as compared to nowadays. We know, for example, a modern woman of menopause area nowadays is a few sizes bigger in terms of dress sizes compared to only 50 years ago. So the question is, what does it mean? Now, we know that, for example, in the case of estrogen, too much causing vasomotor problems, the estrogen is made in 3 places in the body. It's made in the adrenal glands, it's made in the ovaries, and, of course, in the adipose tissue, meaning the fat cells. So the more weight one accumulates, the more estrogen tends to accumulate. And the more stress you have, the adrenal glands get excitatory, including coffee, for example. These can all trigger excessive estrogen. So estrogen excessiveness can trigger hot flashes. Same time, on the reverse end, when you have deficient in estrogen, such as if you're a very skinny person, in particular a small frame woman, you can go through menopause with estrogen depletion because estrogen goes down automatically during the menopausal period. And that deficiency can also trigger some vasomotor instability.
Wow.
Now, years back, when most of the population is skinny, so to say, relative to today, then the use of estrogen actually is a fantastic remedy. And in fact, it's a standard of practice to give women who make that complaint because most of them are estrogen deficient on a relative basis.
Right.
But today, that story changes. So if you do the same thing as what before, which is estrogen dominance, estrogen deficient, you give estrogen to the body, they feel better. But today, if they are already estrogen excessive and you give more estrogen, then guess what? The estrogen goes to cancer, for example, and that's why it can actually backfire. And not everybody needs the help. Of course, this is kind of too extreme. There are a mixture of everything in between because it's a continuum from one end to the other end. So you got to figure out where are you in this continuum? Where is an adrenal component dominant, ovarian component dominant, or is an adipose tissue component dominant, and then how your body reacts, and then make a fundamental decision on what the body is facing.
Wow. So let me clarify. You said that the estrogen dominant people definitely feel the hot flashes and things like that. But the estrogen deficient people, do they have those symptoms?
Yes. And
how do they have those symptoms?
And it's very common, and it is very confusing because the same approach that a person with estrogen dominance cannot have is to have the same given to them as an estrogen deficient. In fact, a estrogen dominant person that has hot flashes, you need to reduce the estrogen load. While the estrogen deficient person with hot flashes, you need to increase the estrogen load, you see. And there are multiple ways to go about this. And this is not factor in also the body's own response, whether it's the receptor side response, the liver clearance response, and also the interstitium response that can affect the ultimate balance and the net effect that most women has in their body through the menopausal period.
All right, so hot flashes can be a combination of a lot of things that are coming together that cause it, but we know that it is not normal, all right? Even
Correct.
though so many people have it, it is fundamental for you to figure out if you're estrogen dominant, if you're estrogen deficient. What can people do to figure that out?
Well, the first thing you have to do is to see your doctor if you have these hot flashes and have a medical workup. Your doctor will do some blood tests and make sure that you're not entering into menopause, for example, if that's the environment that we're in, and also check your estrogen, progesterone. They can check the ratios. But all these tests can only give us a glimpse on a partial picture. And that's why the tests themselves are not 100%. Based on the test, some people are given remedies that actually can make them worse. So it's a combination of using some of the test numbers plus a history to understand the body, not only from the hormone perspective, but also from the overall body's response to stress, the whole body's liver, as I said, the detoxification process, the interstitium, and all these things can affect the ultimate hormonal outcome.
So instead of just thinking, oh, it's normal, I have hot flashes, obviously it's very important to do the lifestyle modifications, like, bring a fan around with you, wear loose clothing, cool yourself down at night, ice packs, things like that. But it's more important to figure out why you're having the hot flashes and the root cause of the problem.
Yeah, hot flashes can be mild. It can also be so debilitating that it kind of drains the body. And if you have a concurrent adrenal fatigue, it's just an exaggerated response. And a lot of people going through menopause have adrenal issues, and on top of that, they have estrogen issues. Then it's just the whole life becomes totally unbearable. And so we urge everybody to understand these concepts first, because the common mistake is that you kind of rush in and say, okay, we have hot flashes here, therefore you have to take these hormone replacement. But they didn't realize that sometimes the hormone replacements can work, sometimes it only works half the time or a temporary basis, and then it stops working, and sometimes actually can backfire. And when you backfire, it only weakens the body, and it makes the whole adrenal fatigue recovery even more complex. So we are not talking about only hormonal balance. We are talking about hormonal balance in the context of the body's overall stress response when it's compromised. And so all the factors, the 6 circuits of the neuroendometabolic stress response and the 12 systems, all have to be factored in order to properly outline a long-range plan to help the body rebalance itself.
So thank you for watching this video about menopause. Make sure you like our video. Have a good day.